All right. Hello, hello, hello. So, a friend of mine, one of my fellows that I work with on a regular basis in the recovery program, um, sent me a message last night and he said I'd asked him to read steps 10 and 11 for 60 days to just, really get the feel for 10 and 11 and to get into it. And he's really struggling with reading it. And just having the ability to actually sit down and read it. And so I'm actually doing this for him. And because he and I've read it together many times and he's out of town. And then I thought, what the heck, I'll share it with you guys. So this is in the big book of AA. This is the steps 10 and 11. So if you have a book, get it out. If you're not doing 10 and 11, well, you're screwed. And if you're in recovery and you're an addict or an alcoholic and you're not doing 10 and 11, guess what? You're generally, my experience is you're on your way out. And if you're not doing 10 and 11, you're also not doing 12. If you are doing 12, which is, carrying the message, what message are you carrying if you're not doing 10 and 11? So, I know this from experience. There's times in my recovery when I wasn't doing this. And usually when I wasn't doing 10 and 11, I was on my way to a divorce or a bankruptcy or, life was, and just the grace of God only that I didn't go back out in those times when I got distance. So 10 and 11, here we go. Page 84, halfway down. I'm going to read it, and you guys just follow along. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any mistakes as we go along. Got that? We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So I love that line, as we cleaned up the past, because lots of times guys say, well, I'm working on my step 9, so I haven't started 10 yet. No, it says right here in this first paragraph, we vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So we're still working and finishing up step 9. That may go on for a long, long time, and we're into 10, right? So there's no waiting to, get 9 perfect. Right? We have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. Very important line. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, boom, right? Dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And there's more things we're watching for as time goes on, but these are a great 4: selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Like if we've yelled at our mother and father, we have to call them back and straighten that out. We have to make amends. Anyway, then, that's an inside joke, you guys. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. What up? That paragraph is just loaded. Love and tolerance of others is our code. What's a code? It's the thing that we live by. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Oh, I love that. That first paragraph in step 10 is amazing. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone. Right? We've ceased fighting anything and anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. So they're suggesting I wasn't sane. Well, I knew that. I didn't think everybody else knew it. They're suggesting I wasn't sane. They say that sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we will recoil from it as if from a hot flame. We will react sanely and normally. We'll find that this has happened automatically. We'll see that our new attitude towards, drugs and alcohol have been given us without any thought or effort on our own part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. So, in step 1, we recognized that, we were we were powerless. We didn't have a choice whether we drank or not. If we'd had a choice, we would have chosen not to, but we couldn't. But from as a result of doing these steps, it's removed. It literally is removed. We're flying at a whole different level. We're in the fourth dimension. We're having this relationship with consciousness, with God, with universal intelligence, with love, and it's a moment to moment, day to day relationship, and we do this work on a daily basis to be reminded, to bring us back to, oh yeah, okay, I can't run the show, and because when I'm running the show, guess what? We're not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. Isn't that great? So we're not on the water wagon. I used to say the wagon was a vehicle between drunks. We're not on the wagon. It's just gone. It's just not there. It does not exist for us. We're neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react as long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Boom. So, that part's up to me. God doesn't keep me in fit spiritual condition. I have to do the work to remain humble, to remain, willing, to remain in service. I have to do the work. It's easy to let up on our spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do. For alcohol is a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve, contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Boom. 88 years that this has been, available to us, and millions and millions and millions of people with all forms of addictions have used this to get free. It's amazing. If you're not an addict or an alcoholic and you're listening to me and you're thinking, what do you mean you're not cured? Well, that's the truth. Lots of people are sober for 5 years, 10 years, and go back out because they're not doing the work and they die. You get a room full of addicts and alcoholics, and there's lots of people with 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right? But there's not that many with more than 20. Where did those guys go? This is a pretty serious game, this recovery from addiction and alcoholism. Our rehab is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. Boom. How can I best serve thee? That's the question. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. So these are, guides for living. This is Bill Wilson and the crew in the beginning wrote these guides for living. So this is my prayer all the time. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. Thank you. And show me what you'd have me to be. How can I best serve? Because if I'm running the show, I'm not looking to serve. Generally, I'm looking to see what I can get. So if I'm living a God-centered life instead of a self-centered life, I'm more inclined to be of service. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It's the proper use of the will. Much has been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from He who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we've begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we become God conscious. God conscious, right? Aware. We've begun to develop this vital sixth sense. But we must go further, and that means more action. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. Boom. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. You're still following along? We're on page 85 now. Actually, just going to 86. Better men than we are using it constantly. We're talking about prayer and meditation. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. Here they are. When we retire at night, constructively review our day. Again, we're looking for were we resentful or selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? I can't tell you how many times later in the day I've called somebody and said, oh, sorry about this or that, or, because I had been bumpy or rough or angry or So I've had to do it lots, but it's freedom, to clean up our messes. Um, you know, okay. Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? That's why we have a sponsor. We discuss our stuff with the sponsor, right? Were we kind and loving towards all? There we go. Love and tolerance, kind and loving towards all, which is kind of a guide for living. What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? Beautiful, eh? I love his writing, is fabulous. But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. Beautiful, step 11. And then the next direction, and I love this reading. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. So on awakening is like on awakening. Boom. Let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane, a much higher plane. We're talking, it's beautiful, on a much higher plane. Our thinking will be cleared of wrong motives. It just happens because we're not thinking about what's in it for me or what didn't go right and all of that. We're actually thinking on a much higher plane is we're thinking about how can we give back. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision, right? We may not be able to determine which course of action to take. Here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought or decision. We relax, take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. If you just tune it in, I'm just reading steps 10 and 11 in the big book of AA. What used to be the hunch, or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still in experience and having just made conscious contact with God, it's not probable that we're going to be inspired at all times. We may pay for this presumption with all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Again, this is why we have a sponsor, because before we, decide to sell the house and move to Costa Rica, we chat with our sponsor or whatever, quit the job or, and not that quitting the job or selling the house, moving to Costa Rica, it doesn't get done, but it's just that, we kind of don't go off on our own for a while. We rely on our community as well. So not probably that we're going to have inspired all the time. So we may pay for this presumption with all sorts of absurd and actions and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes again. He doesn't say how long, but my experience is that it's a while. As time passes, we would be more and more in the plane of inspiration. We come to rely on it. More and more in the plane of inspiration, we come to rely upon it. We usually conclude this period of meditation with a prayer that we've shown all through the day what our next step is to be. That we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will. We're careful to make no requests for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We're careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. Right? If circumstance warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in our morning meditation. We belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning devotion. We attend to that also. Not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers that emphasize the principles we've been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they have to offer. Go through the day. This next word is the most important word in the big book, I think. You ready for this? The most important word in the big book, the bottom of page 87. As we go through the day, we pause, right? We pause. Be present. Be here now. We pause. We breathe, right? We pray and we pause. When agitated or doubtful, we ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. Wow. Humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done, thy will be done, thy will be done. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions, which are symptoms that we're still, sick. We're still, maladjusted to society. Right? We don't want to be, we want to be in less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, or self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient, right? We do not tire so easily. We're not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit us, suit ourselves, right? It works, it really does. We alcoholics and addicts are undisciplined. So we let God discipline us in the simple way we've just outlined. So this is really, really key. We have to kind of burn this 10 and 11 into our psyche. Because if we're not doing it, we're still running the show. We're still looking outside for validation, right? We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we've just outlined. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. So that's for my buddy who said he has trouble reading it. Hopefully, I'm going to put this on YouTube and send him a link, and he can listen to my cheery voice until he gets tired of it. So if this, was of any help to anybody that's listened to it, great. 10 and 11, baby, that's where it's at. We're not doing 10 and 11. We're not in AA. I love that it took me so long to get this. But, recovery is not the groups, it's the fellowship. I mean, all of that's important. But the recovery's in the book, in the steps. And who we know, in what group we belong to, or even some of the service work we do may keep us sober, keep us from drinking or using, but we don't get happy, joyous, and free. We don't have the spiritual awakening, and eventually we go back. Or we don't go back, we go in the garage and start the car and close the door. That's what guys do, hang themselves from the rafters. That sounds rough, but that's for the alcoholic or the addict, we're looking at institutions, death, or insanity. Okay, love you guys, and that was it. That's my little video for the day. Okay, cheers.